For today's Bible study, we'll be reading through chapter 15 in the book of First Chronicles. So without further ado, we'll begin. Now David built houses for himself in the city of David, and he prepared a place for the ark of God, and pitched a tent for it. Then David said, "No one is to carry the ark of God but the Levites, for the Lord chose them to carry the ark of God, and to minister to him forever." And David assembled all Israel at Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to its place which he had prepared for it. David gathered together the sons of Aaron and the Levites, of the sons of Kohath, Uriel the chief, and 120 of his relatives, of the sons of Merari, Asaiah the chief, and 220 of his relatives, of the sons of Gershom, Joel the chief, and 130 of his relatives, of the sons of Elizaphan, Shemaiah the chief, and 200 of his relatives, of the sons of Hebron, Eliel the chief, and 80 of his relatives, of the sons of Uzziel, Aminadab the chief, and 112 of his relatives. To stop here for a moment and to examine this small section of these first verses, we see at least a contrast between the chapter that we had read through yesterday. In reading yesterday, we looked into chapter 14 of First Chronicles, and we saw as it was upon David's heart to relocate the ark of the Lord, to bring it to him, to Jerusalem, where David would be ruling for most of his for his later years in life as king in Israel. As David was seeking to bring the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem, when David had called upon and gathered much of the people in Israel throughout the country, the people gathered together and they started out to carry the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem, but the oxen or the people must have hit something in the way, and one of the people that we were reading about yesterday, who was I can't find his name quick enough right now, but whether it was in yesterday's Bible study or the day prior to that, we saw in previous studies in this book that when one of the people reached out to try and grasp and to grab hold of the ark, the Lord had struck him down and that person died. And it was more so that that person had lost his life, I believe, because there was not the proper following through of protocol which had been taken, that as the Lord had given specific instructions to Moses and to Aaron as to the tribe of people which he had chosen, which the Lord had chosen to be his priests and to be his ministers in accordance with the tabernacle, and giving and taking care of the animal sacrifices and the peace offerings and all those sorts of things. The Lord had chosen the tribe of Levi, and Aaron was from the tribe of Levi, obviously, and his descendants after him would be taking charge and would be administering to the work of the tabernacle and to those offerings and things like that. And so I don't think it was anything necessarily bad, in so much as what little we can read about the person who had lost his life in that Bible study we have gone through previously, for trying to catch hold of the ark so that it wouldn't fall down from the cart, or that it wouldn't break or anything like that. But I think the reason that he had suffered that fate was because maybe a slight disregard for following the explicit instructions that the Lord had given to his people for how things are to be conducted. But as we see the major change in the beginning of this chapter, at least, we see that David he's calling for the people that are properly David's calling together for the right people to take care of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, and to have the people whom the Lord has chosen to take care of that kind of work. David is calling upon them. He's calling upon the Levites to carry the Ark of the Lord. And so as he's making this choice and as the Levites are taking care of the Ark, we see that no more people are dying, or at least no more people have died. And as a result of the right people taking care of the Lord's materials, the Ark of the Covenant, things are going things are going much more smoothly and swiftly. And so also in this section we see that David is gathering together from the Levites the different people who were the chiefs, and he's gathering together different people who would be in the service of the tabernacle, and at least would be the religious officials who would be serving alongside him to carry out the work which needed to have them be taking care of it, more or less. So in verse 11, then David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and for the Levites, for Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab, and said to them, You are the heads of fathers' households of the Levites. Consecrate yourselves, both you and your relatives, that you may bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel to the place that I have prepared for it. A quick pause here for a moment. And several times in reading through books in the Old Testament, we can see, whether it was Moses or David, as we have just read now, that there are these important people among the Israelites who at times would tell the people to consecrate themselves and essentially to make themselves holy, or to basically dedicate their hearts to the Lord, or just to make, I think, that official turn to the Lord, and to have the people especially being consecrated. That would be a step in the right direction. And in verse 13, because you did not carry it at the first, the Lord our God made an outburst on us, for we did not seek him according to the ordinance. So the priests and the Levites consecrated themselves to bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel. The sons of the Levites carried the ark of God on their shoulders with the poles thereon, as Moses had commanded, according to the word of the Lord. In these couple of verses we see the reason for why it was that that person, whose name I can't remember right now, had suffered the fate of being struck down by the Lord for trying to reach out and grab or grasp the ark of the Lord, because at the first time David was trying to move the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem, and this person did that action. If on that first time, while David was trying to deliver the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem, if he had let the Levites take care of it in carrying the ark, and if he was entirely obedient to the word of the Lord, then I think things would have turned out definitely much more positive. Whereas that person who had been struck down by the Lord, if he did not reach out to grab the ark of the Lord, he would not have been killed. And they definitely would not have to have been going through the second ordeal of trying to move the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem. If we can take an application just from this, from so far, I think that's one of the more basic and profound truths that we can read about in the Bible or in the Holy Scriptures, that if we would be willing with all of our hearts, or just be willing in general, to follow the word of the Lord exactly as the Lord, as God has written to us, and not to fall away and to not change or to add things to it, I think we can have a much greater peace in our lives in knowing that if we would wholeheartedly follow what the Lord has said, not only should we experience His blessing, but we can have that peace of mind that we are following him, because if we don't really follow what the Lord has said, I think things will get tangled up and there could be problems down the road. And as David experienced that in the first time trying to carry the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem, at the cost of his rash decision, even though I think he had good intentions, a person did lose their life. And so in the second time when he corrected what he had done, and when he had the people who were especially designated by the Lord to carry the ark and to transport it, and he gathered together the right people for the job, then he did not have any more people die. And so also, if we take that attention and if we take that focus to follow through with whatever it may be that God has told us as far as his will or his plans for us in our lives, if we don't deviate from that or change things so that we can accomplish our own will, or that we can only serve God partially and serve the world partially, in either case, I think the best thing to do is to serve the Lord 100%. So that way, by serving the Lord 100%, we can experience 100% of his blessings. But if we, again, don't remain faithful to whatever it is that the Lord has told us, or to remain faithful to his written word, to his word to us, then I don't expect that we will experience much of a blessing in life. But as to whether we would believe that or not, that's all the choice that I believe, at least, that we all have, that we can make that choice to believe in God, as far as the Bible tells us about, to believe in the Lord, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or we can choose not to believe in him and live as we see fit. But from experience, I can testify that to trust in the Lord and to live for him, as hard as it is, and as trying as it can be, I think in the end, when my life is over, I won't have any regrets. And to trust in the Lord, to have that peace within, is something that I believe we would all want and to have, to desire, and to have his love in our lives is unparalleled. But to press on, in verse 16, we see, then David spoke to the chiefs of the Levites to appoint their relatives, the singers, with instruments of music, harps, lyres, loud-sounding cymbals, to raise sounds of joy. So the, so the Levites appointed Heman, the son of Joel, and from his relatives, Asaph, the son of Berechiah, and from the sons of Merari, their relatives, Ethan, the son of Cushaiah, and with them their relatives of the second rank, Zechariah, Ben, Jaziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Maaseiah, Mattathiah, Elephaluhu, Mikneiah, Obed, Edom, and Jael, the gatekeepers. So the singers Heman, Asaph, and Ethan were appointed to sound aloud cymbals of bronze, and Zechariah, Aziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Maaseiah, and Benaiah, with harps tuned to Alamoth, and Mattathiah, Elephalu, Mikneiah, Obed, Edom, Jael, and Azaziah, to lead with lyres tuned to the Sheminith. Kenaniah, chief of the Levites, was in charge of the singing. He gave instruction in singing because he was skillful. Berechiah and Elkanah were gatekeepers for the ark. Shebaniah, Joshaphat, Nethanel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eliezer, the priests, blew the trumpets before the ark of God. Obed, Edom, and Jehiah also were gatekeepers for the ark. To pause here for a moment, we read about all these people who are involved in the chorus and who are involved in musical instruments and creating songs of joy and praising the Lord. And I think that's something great to consider, because even in this world, and I think as things are also in heaven, it's not going to be entirely boring in heaven, because as the Lord has instructed and given the talents to his people to be able to play music well for him and to create songs of joy, so also will we have great music in heaven.